You're listening to the Conference Board of Canada's Mental Health and COVID-19 series with Dr. Bill Howitt, Chief of Research, Workplace Productivity.
Hi, Bill Howitt, Mental Health, COVID-19, Conference Board of Canada. Welcome to Mental Health Week. Conversation lots of us are starting to engage in. I'm so happy these weeks. And today, what I'm going to focus on in this conversation is stigma. And stigma is that feeling where you don't feel socially accepted. You feel fears of rejection, being discriminated, being judged. And what people may not know, that stigma can happen from self-stigma, where I can put this expectation myself and believe that people will not on the outside be safe enough for me to talk to because they'll reject me. But part of it's because I'm rejecting myself. I haven't yet come to grips with what's going on inside, and I don't feel comfortable enough. So it's almost my internal dialogue is a part of the barrier. And then I start thinking about the next type of stigma is peer, that my peers wouldn't accept me if I talked about having a mental health issue because they've seen, observed where people who have done that could have been judged. And the same thing as the third one being organizational, that if I told my manager I have anxiety or etc., that could put my career at risk. Stigma is a real big issue. Lots of people are challenged with stigma. And the campaigns like Bell Let's Talk and other campaigns that we do, not myself today, we're trying to get more people to feel comfortable to start talking about if they need help. And people who come forward with a mental health issue does not mean they have a mental illness. It means they're struggling perhaps with stress or life situations or challenges. And with that, they may engage in less effective coping strategies like alcohol, gambling, drugging, food. And if they continue that, that could become problematic. So, and when we think about mental health, we need to remember addiction. Often people forget that that is a mental health issue. So you can have people with anxiety, depression, alcohol, and drug. Those are all fall under the banner of mental health issues. Now, sometimes because of denial that I have a problem or those type of issues can happen, whether I have a mental health issue and I deny it or I don't have a frame of reference, it doesn't matter. The conversation around stigma is creating a place where we can help people come forward to eliminate barriers. Now, under human rights, if you have a mental illness that meets the criteria and you're diagnosed, you get the same benefits and entitlement to an accommodation as someone who would be in a wheelchair. Now, if a person's in a wheelchair and they have a ramp, there's an accommodation to help them get in the building. What an accommodation is removing barriers so a person could be successful. When we come to mental health, one of the things that's challenging with mental health, many people don't realize that's an invisible disability. So you don't necessarily quite get how the accommodation would work. I'm going to suggest that for me, a person who's lived their entire life with a mental health issue, I kind of have a point of view on this conversation, is that what I'm going to suggest is to start thinking about the next conversation as we continue stigma, eliminating stigma, lots of work to do. We got to continue to do it. However, if I come forward and I feel safe to tell my employer, for example, I have depression or anxiety, the next level is the so what? What is the accommodation? And I think what we need to think about is starting to provide people who have mental health issues what an accommodation looks like and what are the different options for a mental health accommodation. So they have a frame of reference so that they can actually know what they're asking for. It's pretty hard when you're really upset emotionally and your world's really dark to try to figure out what you need for an accommodation. You need to actually calm down. People don't show up when they come to my office in really good spirits usually. We need to get them calm, get them on a safe plan, make sure their basic needs, they're eating, taking care of themselves, they're psychologically safe, those basics are in place. And let's not assume they are. Once that's in place, then start to work on their recovery. And then as they start to come back to return to work, what does a reasonable accommodation look like? And one of the things I'm convinced about, if I come to you and you're a caring manager and say, hey, I have ADHD and I'm auditory dyslexic and I'm visual dyslexic and I have anxiety, just wanted you to know. And the manager will probably nod and care. Thanks for sharing, Bill. Good. And in their head, they're going, I don't know what to do with that. What do I do? And so they try to treat me the same as everyone else, which is right. They should. However, they can treat me fair, but I may not be treated the same, meaning fair, but not always equal. The person who is in a wheelchair may want to treat them fair, but not equal, meaning you want to give them a ramp to make sure they're successful. So a person with a mental health issue may need some different provisions. However, it's important for them to learn how to articulate what they need. When I take employment, when I went to conference board or my last role at Morneau Chappelle, I was really clear what my accommodations were and being able to articulate what they are. So one of the things is learning that. So I think that's the next conversation that I'd like to see. Not only just train managers in duty to inquire and a duty to accommodate. All managers should know. If you're a manager and you don't know what duty to inquiry is, that's important. You should probably say, well, what does that mean, and how do I do that? We don't want to be taking people who don't know they have a mental health issue and start judging them as performance issues, because we probably reasonably ought to know there's something going on that may not just be performance. Like I can get in my car and turn it on and the key doesn't work, meaning when I turn it, it doesn't start. I don't have to be a mechanic to know my car's broken. If I had an employee who was doing really good performance, all of a sudden he starts slipping, I reasonably ought to know it may not just be a performance issue. There might be something else going on. We're doing better at starting to get managers more trained and identified. And COVID-19, if it's done anything, it's probably provided the opportunity to bring mental health to the forefront, have more conversations. But saying that, I think the next thing is what I'm going to call is a so what conversation. Once I have it, what does that mean to me? What does it mean to the manager? I'd love to see us start spending more time training managers on how to have conversations with people with mental health strain in the workplace, how to do coaching conversations, help diffuse them, help them move from here to here. Managers do not need to be psychotherapists. Managers do not need to be counselors. Managers need to be psychologically safe leaders and understand the power of empathy, power of questioning, the power of conversation to help people feel psychologically safe to articulate what they need. You give me the tools, I can thrive. However, the same as a person who maybe I am also deaf in one ear. So I have a physical disability now. I never realized how hearing, not being able to hear totally on the side, how much I took that for granted. So when I have my conversations, everybody stays to that side for me now. So I can hear downstream, I call it. I'm telling you right now, we need to move it to the next level, have a real impact. And so that when someone's sitting across, say, okay, Bill, thank you for sharing. How can I support you? What kinds of things do you coach me on what can I do to support you? So that we can start having authentic conversations back and forth so that mental health doesn't become not this big, awkward elephant. Now I tell you my story and you go, okay, good. I don't know what to do with it. We want to go, okay, great. This is how I support you. It's the same as you would support every employee to meet their needs. A person with a mental health issue, it's not about excuses. And a person with a mental health issue drives himself to work, dresses himself, pays their own bills and all. They're highly functioning people. They sometimes need some support to help them either calm down, get a different filter, because how they perceive the world. For example, myself, auditory dyslexia. I'll sometimes lose track of conversations. I will sometimes enunciate words. I'm sure when you listen to some of these videos, because of how my brain works, like Archie Bunker, I'll butcher words. That doesn't mean I'm stupid, dumb. That's how I am. And it's interesting, a lot of people, when I speak and that, they allow those malapropisms to go through if they actually authentically believe that I'm doing the best I can. And if they have questions, say, oh, Bill, when you said that, I don't understand. And I'll go back and I'll fix it. It's about creating the next level for me is not only getting at stigma, but once we start talking about it, is creating the place where a person can actually thrive, because there'd be nothing worse than coming forward and telling you I have a mental illness or a mental health issue and not having the support in place to know what to do with it. I'm seeing that happen too much. That can have people retract and create secondary issues and secondary challenges where shame and all those things that come. And some people, I'm sure, regret they ever opened their mouth because of how they ended up getting treated. We need to do better. And that's because the next level of education is what we can do in this conversation. So I challenge you to think about it. If you have a mental health issue, is learning for yourself what kind of accommodations you need. So when you're calm, you can articulate it. I challenge you, if you're a manager or if you're a CEO, if you're a leader, is to look at the curriculum and start saying, okay, I know we have training for this, how to identify people who might have a mental health issue and how to support them to get an accommodation. Do we have programming around to help them facilitate people with special needs or different needs or challenges so they can thrive, so we can help them feel they can maximize their brilliance and potential? That's the next conversation. So with that, I'd like to have you consider it, if you would. It would mean a lot to people like me who are trying to learn. And I think people like me, we need to spend more time asking more questions and learning more ourselves. COVID-19 is not going anywhere in the short term. Things are going to start to open up. Basics. You're going to see some social challenges with people. You're going to see some people may not be nice to each other. You're going to see some nervousness. Calm is going to be important for us, and patience. Lots of people might be a little bit scared. Some people may not pay attention to wearing masks, and some people may not wash their hands. What's going to happen is if we get too comfortable, we're going to end up in the same spot we were a couple of weeks ago. We're now with a hope we can learn how to live with what we have right now and thrive and have a quality life. COVID-19 is not going to end up stopping us. The only one's going to stop us is us. We have all kinds of really brilliant people. They're going to put brilliant ideas in place, and government's doing the best they can. We need to work together to get through this one day at a time. I've said that for weeks. I'm going into week 8 now. So I like to consider that. I don't want to be pulpit, don't want to be lecture. I'm just me, Bill, my apartment still, social isolation, doing the best I can. So just throwing that out there for you to think. So thank you very much for your support. Wish you all the best and have a good day. And as good as you can, we'll get through this one day at a time. Hi, Bill Howard here. Hopefully you're finding these videos of some value. If you'd like to share these, on the lower right of your video, there's a icon you can click. You can send it through your social media feeds, join the Conference Board of Canada social media feed so we can keep you up to date. And if you have ideas, suggestions, please leave your comment so we can consider them. And if you have things that you'd like us to speak to, I certainly will try to do all I can to help out. With that, have a wonderful day.